Well, good. Well, hey, it's 2 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. Um, I'm just going to go ahead, if it's okay. I'm just going to mute all you guys, not because I don't really want to hear you guys talk. It's just it'll make better for a Zoom meeting, and you'll be able to hear the information that we're going to disseminate better. So, um, so my name's Andy King. I started Small Business Phoenix Rising project. It's really there to go ahead and try to help us get our businesses back going. We're focusing on tools, insights, and mentoring, and so that we can get back up and running and be profitable. So just a quick housekeeping thing. If you have a question as we kind of go through this, I think we're going to have close to 15, 20 people on with us today. If you could just type it out in the chat box, that would be great. And then we'll cover those questions with you. All right. So today we've got two presenters. Adam Cook is going to go first, and then I'm going to go second. And Adam actually is going to cover a bunch of stuff as far as what's happening now with loans and financing through the SBA. And then I'm actually going to talk about a case study and some strategies on some things that we can do and things that we can actually should be very relevant to us in this situation that we're at right now. So Adam Cook owns a company called Cook Insurance. A lot of you already know him and know him well. And I'm sorry about that, the fact that you know him. But Adam actually does a really good job with pulling together information on what's happening with the SBA. So with that being said, Adam, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you got today?
All righty. All right. So I am now unmuted. So, and the rest of you are muted. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing for y'all. So we all know that we are in unprecedented times. We've got a lot of things going on in our community. And look, I see people on here right now. You know, I see Robert Young. I know Robert. There's a few people on here I don't know. Some of you guys are in financial business, mortgage business, coaching. So I may not give you any information that you may not already know, but I may kind of give you some insight as to what's actually occurring, because this is not a political statement. This is not us trying to bash anybody, but trying to roll out something of this size in a week and a half, man, it is unbelievably difficult to pull something like that out of your hat and there not be hiccups. Well, guess what? We've got hiccups. So we're going to talk about the CARES Act real quick. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how this thing works, who's eligible, how to apply, how to use it for your own businesses. And really what it comes down to is every single business is a little bit different. Every single business is going to use it in a little bit of a different way. So there's a lot of pieces that go along with it. So we're going to focus on the ones that most people are talking about. There's a ton of confusion out there between the loans that are available to you through the CARES Act and through the SBA. So we're just going to jump right into it. So the CARES Act was approved a little over a week ago. The president has signed off on it. And what does that do for us? Well, it gives us one of the most popular things that you're going to see on that is the stimulus payment that everybody's apparently supposed to be able to get. $1,200 in our pockets, right? When that's going to occur? Well, supposedly you're supposed to start seeing some payments to certain people here in just a few days. We'll see if that actually has happened, because there's not a dime that's been dropped on any of this just yet into the general public's in any of their pockets. So that's the most popular thing. Some of the least lesser known things that have come through the CARES Act is the ability to pull out, you can actually pull money straight out of your retirement account without having to incur the 10% penalty for early withdrawal. So, you know, we've got people like Amy on here that would probably agree with me. Probably not the best place to pull your money from, but if it's something that you have to do, then yeah, man, you can do it. Another thing that you can do is you can also defer payroll taxes. So if you're a business owner, you've got employees, you want to defer your payroll taxes, you can actually defer it until 2021 and beyond. That is, again, you do it. I don't know if you want to get in the rears with the government over your payroll taxes, because you got to make it up. It's not, unless it's deferred, that means it doesn't mean it's waived. It means you still got to pay it. So if you got the means, pay it. But the one that a lot of people are talking about right now, and this is what, if you're living under a rock, you may not have heard about it. I think most of you people here have not. I don't mean you people. I'm talking to Andy now. He's more you people. Unless you've been living under the rock, you've seen the PPP everywhere. That's the Paycheck Protection Program. That's the one that you're supposed to be able to apply at your local bank within 3 to 5 days. You're supposed to get an approval. About a week after that, you're supposed to have the money in your bank. And that's the one that's actually supposed to be based off of your payroll. So all of that sounds easy. All of that sounds fun. The major issue we're having right now is the implementation. Most banks are having an issue being able to figure out why, how, who, what, all these different things. The final word came in from the government on Friday morning, early Friday morning, to tell them. And even then, there was another addendum that showed up Friday evening to help explain some of the things that they figured we might want to know. Well, it still didn't help. You still have a lot of banks that have rolled it out, that have already met their limit. They're not gonna take any more, such as Wells Fargo. You've got other banks that have rolled it out, but are only doing business with current clients that not only have a banking relationship, but have a lending relationship, Bank of America. Now, they opened up their apps a little bit more. So if you're having trouble finding a bank, Bank of America, that might be a solution for it. You have other smaller credit unions that are already accepting applications. They're taking paper apps. The process may be a little bit more hands-on, but they may be really able to kind of help you through that process. There's, all in all, it just hasn't gone as smoothly as you would like. And really, and a lot of these delays are really coming from the fact that the banks are required to process, and they are required to they're actually required to approve these loans and be responsible if they make a mistake and approve a loan that should not have gone through. Well, they're not given any time to actually verify that you're really who you say you are. You're going to use it how you say you're going to use it. So there was a lot of pushback from the banks, and to be honest with you, rightly so. And finally, some of that's starting to get cleared up. All right, so now we're applying for it, right? I've known a handful of people that have actually been able to apply for it, and they say for the most part it's about as clear as mud. Really, it stems around payroll. So what is payroll? Remember, on that loan, you can take up to 2.5 times of your annual payroll. Is it for 2019, or is it a rolling 12 months from the time you apply for the loan? Well, that's unclear. So some banks are deferring for the 12 months. Some banks are pushing for the 2019. Just depends on who you work with. So what is the definition of payroll? Well, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of things out there that are saying that independent contractors should be included, and then you have very definitive wordings that said that contractors are not included in that. But there's a lot of contradictory language within all the information sheets. So my guess, and this is by no means a professional, you are looking at, if you're an independent contractor or you're paying independent contractors, you're not going to be able to ultimately claim them in your calculation for in order to collect your loan proceeds. So at 2.5 times your payroll does not include your independent contractors. Anybody on 1099, those are your W-2 employees. So how does that work if you are yourself an independent contractor or sole proprietorship? You don't have any employees, it's just you. You can actually get on this loan as well. A lot of people think that you can't, but you can. You just have to wait until the 10th. See, today's the 7th. You have to wait till April 10th, and you can apply for that same loan. Now, the rules and requirements for documentation are a little bit different, But as a business owner yourself, you do qualify for that loan. You are paying yourself a payroll of sorts, and that could include things like your profit. You know, if you're a sole prop, you're not paying yourself a W-2, but you do have you do have profit. So there are ways in order for you to collect that, so you do not have to go out of business, and that's the purpose of this entirely. So that's a real quick overview of the Paycheck Protection Program. It's a lot of information. It's about it, like I said, it's about as clear as mud on some of this stuff. I've gotten some feedback from people who've actually gone through it, and they said, some of them said it's really easy, but these are companies that really have their act together as far as their financials and their books. If you don't, it probably will take a little bit more work, a little bit more help to actually get through the process. So that is probably the biggest thing that you're going to see for small business owners. The reason why it's that big is it's going to allow you to pay for things like payroll. It's going to allow you to pay for things like your rents, your utilities. And if you use it correctly, and how you use it correctly is you use all of that within the first 8 weeks after you collect the money, it's 100% forgivable. You never have to pay that loan back. That's huge, guys. That's absolutely huge. So it turns into a grant from the government. Even beyond that, when if you have a financial advisor or a tax accountant out there that's listening to this, they're going to agree. Most of the time when you have a loan forgiven, you still have to pay taxes on that because it turns into ordinary income. This does not turn into ordinary income. You do not have to pay it back. You do not have to pay taxes on the waived amount. Now, if you don't use enough of it, so let's say you have a $100,000 loan, you only use $75,000 for payroll and rent and utilities that first 8 weeks, you still have $25,000 left over. Well, that becomes a loan that you do have to pay back, just the difference. It's 1% interest on a 2-year term. It's pretty low interest. The term could be a little bit better. All right. And I'll grab some questions from that here in just a little bit. I do want to touch on another part. Andy, go ahead and move me up. So I talked a little bit about your independent contractors. They actually have multiple options. So if your independent contractor can go back and collect on that PPP, that Paycheck Protection Program, or they can also, well, not also, or they can look at collecting unemployment. So I know that sounds kind of weird. Usually you have to be an employee that's let go. They've relaxed a lot of the regulations and the requirements to be able to qualify for unemployment. That includes your employees that have been let go, but also if their hours have been cut. But it also includes independent contractors that are no longer getting work, or a self-employed person who's had to shut their business down. So if you're really trying to figure out how to pay your bills here over the next many months, and it's because you're an independent contractor, you're just not getting that work anymore, this may be a really, really good source for you to kind of get you by. So Andy, next.
Yeah, question here. Can I go hire someone to use the loan, or can it only be used for employees already employed? Do we know that?
So no, so it isn't specific to it's not specific to a specific employee. It's specific to a payroll amount that you paid. So they're not necessarily looking as closely as John was paid this amount, Jane was paid this amount. It's more looking at the amount of payroll that you've paid out during that period of time. Is that, you're talking about for the loan? Is that right, Andy?
Yes. Yeah, that's what he's asking. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're more than welcome to hire and expand, but hiring is not going to give you additional funds, because remember, it's based off of your average payroll for 2019. So if you had a low payroll, but now you're really ramping up, you're not going to get anything more to pay for those new employees, but you're more than welcome to use that money to help springboard.
Okay. Good.
All right. All right. So the EIDL, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, that is the SBA loan. That's the one that you file directly through the SBA. And a lot of people are getting this one and the PPP loan confused, and they are two totally separate things, and they really need to be used for two totally separate things. Whereas your PPP is designed for your payroll, designed to pay your rent, designed to pay your utilities. Now, when I say rent, we're talking business rent. We're not we're not talking about your personal rent. Your EIDL is to cover those other costs that the other fixed costs or other costs that may come into your business. So maybe you're a manufacturer and product costs have skyrocketed because you can't get them here anymore because China's shut down. So it's to help cover those additional expenses. Maybe you've got certain specialty programs that have an annual or a monthly fee in order to access it, like we do. We pay thousands of dollars a month just in subscription fees for our various programs. Then it can cover costs like that. So anything other than payroll is what it's really designed for. Now, can you use EIDL for your payroll? You absolutely can, but what it'll do is it'll make you ineligible for the PPP, or you will be required to roll this loan into that Paycheck Protection Program loan that you would get. So you really want, if you take out both, and you absolutely can, there's confusion out there, you can absolutely take out both. You need to make sure they are earmarked for separate things, that they are not crossing over and trying to cover the exact same thing. So that is the EIDL. You will apply for that straight through the SBA. It's an easy process. It only takes a few minutes. Again, I don't know a single person who's actually collected money on it yet, but it's easy to apply for it. Now, one of the greatest benefits that they're saying is included in this is you can actually request an advance of the EIDL of up to $10,000. And I say up to, pretty much everything I'm reading says $10,000, not up to. So you would get a $10,000 advance on that loan. And you would get that regardless of whether you actually are approved for that loan or you're not. So if you're not approved for it, you still get that $10,000. That doesn't mean you have to pay it back. It's a grant. It actually turns into grant. Again, you don't have to pay it back, just like the PPP. If it's used correctly, you don't have to pay it back. Well, this one here, the EIDL, supposedly you don't have to pay it back at all, period, and you use it for whatever you need to for business purposes. What's unclear, and I have not seen any clarification on, is whether or not that one becomes taxable income or not. And if anybody has any insight on that, I'd be happy to hear. That one there is supposed to be paid within 3 to 5 business days after you apply. Well, I know people that have applied about 10 days ago and they have not seen any money yet. So again, governmental efficiencies, we know it's hard to roll this type of stuff out and have it work smoothly this fast with so many moving pieces.
Hey, Adam.
Yes, sir.
What I had read on that 10,000, it's not after you apply, it's after you're approved.
Is it?
Yeah. So who knows? But so the thing is, who knows when you're going to be approved?
So the approval on the actual loan itself is supposed to occur about 3 to 4 weeks after you apply. The purpose of the EIDL grant, though, was to be able to circumvent that, because remember, it's not supposed to be based on whether or not you're approved or not. So maybe it's more after you're reviewed, because if they wait till it's approved, well, that kind of, I don't know, that's like the whole purpose was to get it to you quick.
Yeah, but I thought, and again, I might have misunderstood, but it was, it has to go through some kind of review process,
which is correct,
before you get the 10,000, before that the clock starts ticking, if you will.
So and that doesn't surprise me, or wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. It just has not been communicated very well at all. And even the professionals, these guys that this is all they do, they're still not clear on it. There's just too many what ifs. So what I can tell you is how it's supposed to work, and then we'll figure out once things start rolling how it is actually going to work, and we'll update what we're talking about. All right.
This is Mike. Can you hear me?
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, clarification question. So payroll is the people that we've paid, which is a form I can pull from my payroll. But you're saying that also as a sole prop, we don't really pay ourselves. We just use the profits of the business for us. So that could be part of the payroll.
That is also in question, Mike, because if you're like, I mean, if you're paying yourself essentially an owner draw, so
Yeah.
you know, I'll use myself. I pay myself a salary, but I also pay myself a monthly owner draw. And in doing so, as far as I understand, we've got half the world saying yes, it's just the W-2 payroll. You can't do anything else, but you have the rest of the world saying, no, you can do both your owner draw and your payroll. That's the way the owners get paid. So my feeling on it, much to my dismay, because I know a little bit how government works. I don't think they intended to have the owners paid as well, or they intended the owners to be paid if you were collecting a W-2. If you weren't collecting a W-2, I think their intention was to leave owner draw out. I think that would end up being very short-sighted for a lot of business owners, and maybe there needs to be another calculation or more clarification that comes from that. But that is my expectation. So you can find banks that'll allow you to do either way, but we'll find out whether or not the ones that allow owner draw to be claimed as part of that 2.5 times loan amount will end up ultimately being waived or not.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
So I know. I wish I had the definitive, but unfortunately I do not, because nobody does. So this is based off my experience and what I've seen so far. Let's see. Lisa had a question. How long is the PPP available? It says, I'm a sole proprietor right now. We're okay, but as most people get laid off, I expect more cancellations. I don't need it now, but may need it in a month or two. So my advice on it is get on it as soon as possible, both the PPP and the EIDL. Specifically, the PPP is because there is limited funds. They've only authorized about $350 billion, of which, as of today, I think it's about $75 billion has actually already been approved. It hasn't been given out. Nobody's received a dime, but it's apparent. Supposedly, there's that many applications that have come through and have been approved. So you may not have very long to actually apply. Now, the president just said today that they're expecting that they'll probably reauthorize and give some additional cash to that. So if you don't get it now, doesn't mean you won't get it. It just means you might not get it. So a lot of what we're doing here, especially as business owners, we're having to presume and we're having to forecast in an economic environment we've never been faced with. We don't know how this is going to turn out. We don't know, how much business we're going to look at. Look, I'll be honest with you. If my week, or excuse me, if every day is like yesterday for me, I may have to shut my doors within the next couple of weeks. But if every day is like I had today, then I don't ever have to worry about it ever again, because this was a great day. So I can't predict what's happening in our businesses. I can't predict how much, but I can tell you this: our revenue is probably going to be down. Your revenues are probably going to be down. Most regular business owners are going to have some revenue issues. And if you think you need to take advantage of it, don't let anybody guilt you into not taking advantage of a system that's trying to help us as business owners not have to get rid of employees and not have to shut down.
Yeah, that was good. Any other questions for Adam? All right.
All right.
Thanks, Adam. That was
thank
good
you.
stuff.
Hey guys, if you do have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'll put it in the chat box, but my email address is right there on Andy's screen, akoch@kochig.com. And I'll repeat it right here. And if I can help, man, I'd love to. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Adam. That was good. Thank you. All right. So let's talk about a case study. And this is actually very relevant to what's happening right now. And I'm going to talk about a few of the things that McDonald's is doing right now, very specific for COVID-19. And this information, if you just go in and you Google McDonald's COVID-19 response, it'll actually be about the first thing that pops up. It's called 5 Principles That Guides McDonald's Ongoing Response to COVID-19. Okay, there's the actual link. And in terms of this actual Zoom meeting, we actually are recording it. And then once we're done recording it, all this information will be available to you in a YouTube video. So the first thing that McDonald's was focusing on is, and this is really quite prevalent right now, you see it on TV, commercials, everywhere, this concept that we're all in it together. And I think that this is good. I think we can draw strength actually on one another, that we're all kind of facing the same thing. And McDonald's for sure is definitely promoting that. The number 2 thing is think and act with a long-term mindset. As we're going through this, we don't just want to wake up one day and say, okay, everything that I've done up to this point is for naught. I'm going to completely retool everything that I've ever done and do business a whole new way. For a lot of businesses that try to do that, it's probably going to put them in and out of business. In fact, this is the time that we should choose and pick what we really do the best at. There's always going to be 1 or 2 things that we do and we do really, really well. And we generally know what those are as far as business owners. Those are the things that we need to focus on and work with as far as our customers, as far as what we do with our business. Number 3, be transparent with each other and our stakeholders. On a very granular level, it's okay, especially at this point, to say, you know what, just like what Adam just said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to stay in business. It's very honest. It's very open. And McDonald's is basically saying that if one of us has a problem, we all have a problem, kind of all man's on deck. Number 4, lead by example. McDonald's really clearly does a good job of that. They do a lot in the community. And this is one of these times where the more that we're out there serving and helping others, the more that we'll be able to bless their lives as well as our lives. And it's just a real opportunity for us to help. Stay true to our purpose. That's kind of in line with what I just mentioned. Don't try to reinvent your whole business model. It's just not going to necessarily happen, and nor will it be successful. Okay. All right. So with that being said, and I'm going to do kind of the other side of the coin here, maybe make you guys think a little bit, but there's a book by the author Lucas Robach, and it's written on Ray Kroc. Killing your competition is still the American way. Okay. So Ray Kroc once said, if any of my competitors were drowning, I'd stick a hose in their mouth and turn on the water. Now that sounds pretty harsh, and it probably is, but the reality is we're at a point right now that we're going to have a down economy, and this always happens when we have a down economy, that if there's 10 pizza places, but there's only enough business to keep 9 of them open by virtue of just the way the market works, one of them is going to go out of business. And when one of them actually goes out of business, it doesn't go out of business because they go from $50,000 a month in revenues down to 0. They go out of business because they can't sustain their business expenses due to the fact that there's not enough revenue coming in, if that makes sense. When a company goes out of business, revenues don't necessarily hit 0. Revenues land where the business can't sustain itself anymore. And that's what's going to happen. Unfortunately, there are some businesses that are going to go out of business. And I guess maybe I'm kind of presenting to you an alternative way of looking at it. There is some hope, because one of the things that the president keeps talking about, and I'm not trying to be political, but I think he is correct on this, is that there's going to be so much pent-up demand that when finally we get back to resuming a normal life, there's going to be so much opportunity there. So with that being said, and I'll leave this last point, is that if other businesses are going to go out of business, the opportunity is to absorb that market share into our businesses. Now, I mean, it's awfully aggressive, and certainly Ray Kroc saying that if his competitors were drowning, he'd put a hose in their mouth and turn it on is very much the case. But it's one of the aspects that I think that makes this country better than any other country in the world, is that it's pure capitalism. It's pure the fact that the best product, if it's produced the correct way and it's marketed the right way, is going to be the product that sells the most. So with that being said, any questions, any thoughts? And was that a little too aggressive with Ray Kroc and his quote there?
Hey, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Mike. So you said that we should focus on what we do really well, or our one thing that's really suited to our business. Now, shouldn't we also try to diversify for the marketplace if, in fact, that's the only way we can survive in some case?
Well, yeah. And if you're speaking to your situation, because I know a little bit about what's going on with you, Mike, is that right now you're having a lot of need of people wanting you to come in and sanitize and to clean. If that's what you're referring to, then absolutely yes. But that's
we've lost over 50% of our business, but we've made up a small portion of that in other services, which we're getting really good at now. But the services that we are really good at and we do well and are profitable, they're not wanting, or no, there's no time for that right now.
So give me an example of one of the services that you're now doing that you weren't doing before.
Well, floor cleaning and floor care, that brought in a lot of profit, and we were really good at it, and there was a lot of jobs coming in, but nobody wants to do that now.
Yeah, but
A, they're not in their offices, and B, they don't have any money.
Right, but right now, what is the stuff that you're doing that you're getting more business of? What's that thing that you're doing?
The thing that we're doing and getting more business of is the sterilization, touch surface sterilizing
Okay.
for people, but they're turning out to be like a one-time hit versus an ongoing regular piece of business. And
Sure.
It hasn't replaced nearly what we've lost, but it's a diversification that's helped maintain.
But Mike, it's your core. It's still cleaning your core competency. So you might have increased the number of services. However, it is. You can say it's diversified, but it's really within your core competency. It's cleaning. It's cleaning those locations. So it's really, you're not straying. It's not like you said, well, you know what? The cleaning business is doing real bad, so I'm going to go out and start selling lights.
Oh,
You know,
yeah, I get you.
Yeah, so that would be diversifying your product or product mix.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the point I was going to make, that's all very much within the scope of what you do, Mike, is that you have a cleaning company, and now you're cleaning a little bit differently, but the need in the market right now is very specific to making sure that things are sterilized. I see that with the cleaning company that's actually within my building, and I talked to the guy that owns that company here, and he says he just can't even keep up with it right now because he has a couple of government accounts, and they're having him come in at 2-3 times a week. So anyway.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? If not, that kind of concludes our session today. We're actually going to be meeting again on April 9th, and we're going to kind of keep this same format where we're going to try to give updates as far as what we know, particularly with the financing piece, because it's so absolutely fluid. Every day it seems like we're getting a little bit more information. Every day it seems like we're getting a little bit more misinformation, and we're trying to sort it all through. And so please keep coming back. We do these meetings twice a week on Tuesdays, on Thursdays. It's the same room. It's the same passcode. So just come and join us. And once again, we're going to take this meeting. We're going to, I've already have it recorded. I'll post it up on YouTube, and I'm going to send it out via email. And then if you have friends, relatives, other business associates, please tell them about this, because the real goal is really to try to help one another. And once again, we're all in this together, and we all want to succeed. We all want to get beyond this and stay in business. So thank you so much for joining us today, and Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome stuff.